Okay, so my name is Crystal, and I wanted to start a YouTube channel for healing content because on my journey, I found a lot of healing channels very helpful. However, I didn't find a lot of information that wasn't very abstract and hard to understand, hard to break down if you're not further along in your healing journey. And what I hope to do is to make healing an easier, more understandable process, especially for the beginner. I had to do this on my own because I didn't have access to healthcare or mental health care because America, right? So I had chronic illness that kept me debilitated in the bed. Every time I stood up, I would get lightheaded. I would see sparkles. I literally became allergic to stress. It's MCAS if you want to look it up. And I was non-functioning entirely and dependent on people for the first time in my Capricorn rising life. Yes, I am into astrology and tarot, and you'll see some of that stuff on this channel as well. However, I really want to focus on healing and making it easily understandable for others, because when we hear concepts like intention and all these videos on how to be consistent and how to be disciplined, but there's more to it. There's more to it than that. And I've gone through it myself, or I wouldn't be here in front of you right now. I couldn't even handle lights like this without becoming lightheaded and almost passing out. I wouldn't be in front of a camera talking to who knows how many people. So I want to break down everything that I've learned, and I have systematically put it into steps that are easy to follow, and that is the entire healing journey. Now we'll learn a little bit more about the structure of healing in next Monday's video, so be sure you come back for that one. But these first couple of videos are just going to be about what healing is and what it looks like, and why we keep finding ourselves back at something we thought we had already healed. Okay, that's very common. So we're just going to dive right in. Healing is not living through your trauma over and over again and telling everyone and telling people and having to dive in very deep into all of those really painful memories. Okay, those happened, they're going to be there, and any unresolved pain from that can be healed, but it's not going to take back that it happened. But what you can do is stop it from following you like a shadow, which is why it's called a shadow, because the unhealed trauma that we carry follows us in our every single day life in many of our decisions, because it comes from subconscious programming, which we'll get into in a little bit. But healing isn't going to take back what you went through. It's never going to get rid of that, okay? But it will stop it from continuing to impact you in your everyday life. And let me tell you, as someone who had a lot of trauma, and the trauma itself doesn't go away, but the effects of it don't affect me the way that they used to. And it is a very easy process to understand, but let me not make it feel like it's easy to do, because taking those steps is incredibly hard. But the understanding it part is not. And I feel like that's what people lack when they want to start healing, is they don't know how, and it's hard. So I'm going to make it easier for you in understanding how and what it is. And then you'll have to take those hard steps and going against that programming that has been reinforced for years, if not decades, okay? It is hard, but if you know the steps and you can identify what you're dealing with, you can face it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do on this channel. The first few videos are going to be me teaching you all about what healing is and the step-by-step process that you can use on every single part of your healing. And then after that, we'll move into the specifics. And if you guys have any questions, be sure to leave them down below, because I have so much knowledge I've obtained over this entire healing journey. It's easier when people ask me specific questions, because then I can guide you on what you need to do, and I can even make full videos on it. I would love to do it. I am passionate about talking about healing. It has been something my soul always knew that I was going to do, and always knew that I would help people with it as well, ever since I was little. So we're going to dive in. So how does healing show up in our everyday lives? Well, usually mostly in our mindsets, and the good news is mindsets can be healed, okay? Not easy, but they can be healed. And so this can show up like not wanting to do things for yourself. You can take care of other people, but you don't want to take care of yourself. And this could stem from people making it seem like a burden to take care of you. So now you've adopted the mindset that it is a burden to take care of you. And so you can have all this energy to take care of other people, but none for yourself. This can look like feeling like, since no one took care of me as a child, I don't deserve to be taken care of. These are beliefs, and it can take some digging to get into the beliefs, but you will get there if you take those steps. This is what healing is. This is how it shows up in your everyday life. And this is why you don't have to dig and dig and dig and go back into those really, really, really painful memories. Sometimes you will have to dig a little bit to find out what mindset might be there, but you don't have to just keep reliving it, hoping you get the insight that you need to heal. They show up in your everyday life all the time. It's what stops us from going after what we want. It's what makes us believe we can't have what we want, that keeps us stagnant, that keeps us in the cage of our subconscious programming. It is what makes us think there's nothing in this life that we want. And, you know, this could be chalked up to epiphania, I believe that's how you pronounce it, and you could be prescribed antidepressants or something like that, but it doesn't get to the root of it. And the root lies in feeling like, one, we can't have what we want, so why even put in the information? Like, why even put in the effort? Why even try? And, oh, I just don't have the energy. These are all subconscious things, and you will believe them. They are beliefs, but they will stop you from going after the life that you want. And in this channel, I'm going to show you specifics and the possible mindsets. Now, everyone's different, that could be standing in their way of any of these facets of healing. And again, if you have questions, put them below, and I have no problems making videos where we'll talk step by step. This is the problematic mindset. This is how we stop, we label it. This is how we rewrite it. And it's just a process of building up those neural pathways, which we'll get into. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I could talk forever about this stuff, and I'm really, really passionate, and I'm so excited to be sharing it with you guys. But this is what healing looks like. It is mindsets. And the good thing about that is it can be healed. Mindsets can be healed. Every mindset you have can be healed. It's not going to happen in a day, but it will happen when you choose healing every single day. Okay. So, and it can seem like it's not going anywhere for a bit until finally that pathway is solidified enough that it's taken hold. Now, the good news is when we heal, when these pathways are solidified, they become our default programming, just like our old subconscious programming that we were taught growing up. And so you put in the work now, and then it becomes automatic, just like our automatic auto programming that was installed in us when we were children, right? So we often perpetuate our trauma and the things, the mindsets we learned from that long after we're out of an abusive situation or a traumatic event. And this happens because the programming gets in and we don't know it consciously, and we continue perpetuating our abuse onto ourselves long after we are free from our abusers. This isn't something we're doing consciously. It's happening subconsciously because the brain constantly learns and adapts to situations, and they become part of our programming. Okay, and science says 90% of our behaviors and actions and reactions come from the subconscious. And from before we are the ages of 7 to 8 years old approximately, our subconscious is wide open. Okay, it is in a more impressionable state. This is so that we can learn how to crawl and sit and walk and navigate and survive this life around us, right? And then it closes down a bit. It becomes our programming. And if you want to get into more why, this is because we're in a theta wave state, our brains are, during those first 7 to 8 years of our life. And then we come out of that state and the subconscious kind of closes. Now, this doesn't mean that it's not possible, because it is, to get back in there, but it just means that the programming has been fully installed at this point. And this is what we were taught from other people's wounds, by the way, things that they were taught in their subconscious programming when they were younger that were never true, okay? And they're not true about you either, but it gets in there. And if we're not conscious about it, this programming just runs our lives essentially on, even in most of our choices in our day-to-day life, without us ever really being consciously aware of it. We can default to certain mindsets, reactions to certain things, specifically because of this programming. So the subconscious reprogramming that I'm going to be talking about will help us to identify these things and how they can show up in our lives so that we can identify them. Because the subconscious is a murky place that is hard to know, but it will show up in your day-to-day life. It will show up whenever you find yourself triggered. It will show up when you want to do something and you don't allow yourself to do something. It will show up in the ways that we think and feel all the time. And this is how we get access to that subconscious place, because yeah, its programming might be a little hidden from us, but it makes itself known in very noticeable ways in our life. And so this is what we're going to be working on to heal. Now, how does this work? It's called neuroplasticity. Anytime we are learning something new, so anytime you learn anything new in your life, a skill, anything, a neural pathway is starting to form. Now, you have to remember that our old programming that we learned growing up, the way that we think about and see the world around us and how we fit into that world, has already been formed. These are strong neural pathways, okay? They are. But with neuroplasticity and metacognition, which is just thinking about how you think, and we'll get into that in a little bit, you can actually start to form new pathways. The way it works is you're learning something, new pathways are being formed. The more you reinforce the new pathway, the stronger it becomes, and the weaker old ones become. This is why they say if you don't use it, you lose it. The brain is not a muscle, but it can be compared to that in this way. You have to practice it over and over again. This is why it's so important, and why you can actually see healing very, very, very rapidly. I know from experience, because once I can identify a problem, I can start to work on it, and it changes very quickly. But with this, you really do need to be working on it every day, all day, as much as you can. And believe me, it will present itself to you many, many times. I'm usually only working on a few mindsets at one time that have been made known to me consciously as I've observed my own behavior, thoughts, and feelings. And it's just in those moments. It's not an obsessive thing all the time, 24/7, but it's staying present enough to be aware of what's going through my mind, how am I feeling, what am I thinking, and then rewriting those each time I notice them. So I want to touch on something here too that is important. You didn't consent to what you were initially programmed with, what programming was initially installed, which means until we reprogram this, we are not running of our own free will. We are not living with intention, as so many say, which can be also a kind of convoluted thing, but intention just means you're making your choices consciously, not from your subconscious programming. It means when the subconscious programming pops up, we choose differently. This is living with intention, something that I used to look at and go, what the heck does that even mean? And that's what it is we don't really have free will while we're running on programming we did not consent to. But the thing is here, you can actually change it to be exactly what you want, in alignment with what the life that you want. This is intentional. And each time we're in that present moment, which by the way, it takes time to learn to be present. That's a new skill as well. Don't beat yourself up. But when you do notice that you're having strong thoughts and feelings, then you take your moment and you address them. And we'll get more into exactly how the process works in the next video. But in those moments, you can intentionally choose what you want for your life, how you want to move forward, what mindsets are going to suit you best, not the ones that you were taught, not the ones that came from other people's wounds. This is how you live with true free will, okay? Which, of course, is a widely debated topic that we're not going to talk about right now. But we cannot live with any kind of free will if we're running on programming we did not consent to. Now, back to the neural pathways. The reason it's so important that we do this every chance that we are present enough to do it, and consistently, even when we don't want to, because I'm going to tell you, it'll be so much easier to fall back into your subconscious programming. Every time that we choose the new pathway, it is, of course, strengthening. But every time we allow the old pathway, it is strengthening. And it's had years and decades. So it does take time. And at first, you're going to feel like you are trudging to make different choices, forcing these different choices. And that's why it's very important in healing to remember to keep your eye on the life you want. Now, don't obsess on it. Don't stare at it and be upset that you don't have it yet, because this scientifically shows you are making the steps. It is backed in science. It is backed in neuroscience. And so you will make the progress. and you do have the choice, but it is going to be hard. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's going to be easy. I have made choices where I was crying while I did it. That's how hard it was. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's easy. It takes a lot. But if you can look at at the life that you want and understand that the old programming is directly conflicting with that, directly holding you back, it will make it much, much easier. And like I said, and I am proof, I know you don't know me yet, but I do. And it can happen very, very rapidly when you're doing it all day, every day. And you will become better at being present and seeing these things. The more that we see, you kind of learn that it's all like a little web, and they're intertwined, and they can apply to different areas of our life. And we'll get into that at some point, but it can happen very, very quickly if we dedicate to it and choose it every day. You don't have to live the life that has been awful and holding you back forever. If you commit to being temporarily more miserable, you are committing to the life that you want, rather than, like I've always said, we have two choices here. We can be miserable forever, or we can be temporarily more miserable. It's not always more miserable, but temporarily sometimes it's a little bit more miserable and scary, because your subconscious programming was designed to keep you safe. Like, it is your safety mechanism. And so going against that can feel like death. And we'll talk about that at some point too. It's a metaphorical death where the old programming is dying, and it will kick and scream and throw everything that it can at you during that time. And that's where we just have to hang in there, knowing that every time we choose the new programming, we are choosing that life, and that the old one is weakening. Okay. Another thing I want to talk about here is why healing can be so hard. You truly believe these things. These are beliefs that you have. And some of them you've had for a very, very long time, and they've been solidified many, 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 many times. Okay. And this is where I want to point out that therapy might be crucial for some and necessary for safety, because when these beliefs go neck and neck with your new beliefs, you may feel confused and not know what to believe. Now, at this point, you have to make sure you keep your eye on the new programming, but it can lead to some derealizing, a lot of confusion, because the old programming has a lot of evidence behind it as well. Even if it's through confirmation bias and it's not accurate, it uses this evidence and how many times you've chosen it to keep you safe. Okay, this was designed to keep you safe. So when you step outside of it, your nervous system is going to react. Okay, ultimately, once you program this stuff, it will actually help your nervous system. I experienced that, or I wouldn't be able to talk to you right now. But this is why it could be helpful and even necessary for some to be under the care of a therapist or a mental health clinician at this time, because the stuff I will give you will definitely help you with healing. It can get you through all of it. However, sometimes we need that help, that outside support. And so if you find yourself feeling unsafe during any of this process of reprogramming, definitely reach out to your support system. If you don't have access to mental health, like therapists and things like that, like I didn't, but I did have support. And so it got me through those times, because I definitely dealt with some derealization and things like that. So, and the nervous system, this is why we want to take little steps at a time, because the nervous system can only handle so much at a time. So don't look at it and be like, I want to heal this and that and this and that and this and that, and try to change everything at once. You can't. You can't. Your nervous system will not respond well to that. And this could only re-solidify the old programming that it is not safe to heal. Okay. So get the help and support that you need, but understand that the reason why healing is so hard is because you truly believe these things, and it takes time for you to start believing the new programming. At first, you may literally feel like you're lying to yourself. I know I did on some of them. I genuinely felt like I was lying to myself, but I had taken in enough good mindsets, and this is why it's very helpful. In addition to the steps I'm going to give you, if you have distorted thinking patterns, you need to be finding ways to identify those. Now, we'll do that on this channel down the line, but there are many other channels you can go to that will help you identify distorted thinking patterns so that you can understand that they're distorted, so you can recognize them and you can change them. But it's very, very crucial that you have these sources that can tell you what mindsets are distorted and what are some things that you can replace them with. Because when we're super traumatized, we believe this stuff and we don't always know how to identify it. So, and I had a ton of them myself. So very important, have your support, be taking in information that helps you label and understand what you can change those mindsets to for when we get into talking about how healing is structured and the exact process. Okay, very, very important. Have your support and have your sources of information that are trusted. Okay, now we're going to get into some information on me. Why am I doing this? Why am I going to put every single thing I know for free? For one, I'm very collective minded. If you are into astrology, which you'll probably hear about a little bit on this channel, I am an Aquarius moon. I have that humanitarian moon. I have the collective mindset with that Aquarius moon, and I believe that what I know is not just mine, it belongs to everyone. And I am a life path 11, if you know anything about numerology, which means I have a little bit of an easier time gaining these insights. They flow in a little bit easier, along with some placements that I have in my natal chart through astrology, but we won't get too far into that, except for to talk about why my channel is called Saturn Returns. So I am a Capricorn rising and Aquarius moon, both ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is the planet of hard lessons and learning things the hard way. Like running myself so ragged and wouldn't even slow down enough to heal that I got knocked on my rear for 3 years and made to heal. Okay? Yes, made to heal. So Saturn also is the sole dispositor in my chart, which means every planet in my chart answers to Saturn. Okay, it has been a rough existence, but we made it. We made it for this reason, so that I could share everything that I've learned with all of you. And so I'm going to look down at my notes a little bit to make sure I don't get too off topic. But many people that will find themselves in this channel may find themselves in their Saturn return, which happens around the ages of 27 to 30. And this is when many gain their true self-awareness for the first time, and they deepen it. Okay, some people may have already had it. They may have had a really good connection to their intuition or their inner child, but it's the time when your inner programming is challenged. Saturn will challenge it, and it becomes so painful that you kind of have to move differently. I just came out of my Sati Sati in Vedic astrology. If you don't know what that is, it is where my moon was transited by Saturn, but my Saturn return was happening at the same time. So I got very ill. Some people call this shamanic illness or initiation, and it forces you to have to heal. And a lot of times with shamans, if you believe in that type of thing, they kind of have to do it alone. They have to traverse this underworld and come out the other side. Some of them come out as mediums and things like that. I came out with just the knowledge that I have learned to help heal a lot of deep trauma. Okay, a lot of it. And so during all of this time, I was very, very ill, and I had to heal or else I could have died. I was having anaphylactic type responses in my body to stress that would sometimes last all day, every day for a month before I was able to get on some medication that helped calm my nervous system down, and I genuinely thought I was going to die. I thought that I was not going to wake up sometimes in the morning. I would sometimes only get 30 minutes to an hour between these episodes, and it felt like I was dying every single time. And so I was forced to have to do this, okay? But it's the path my soul chose. And I knew as a child that I always wanted to, when I was sitting in the therapist's office as a young child, that I wanted to help people like me who had the struggles and the trauma. And here we are. Now, I might talk more about my story at some point, but the backstory isn't what's important. I really just want to share what helped me, because my identity is no longer in trauma. It's not. It used to be. And I used to have a very big victim mentality, and that kept me from healing. It kept me from seeing the lessons that I could have learned, how I was keeping myself in situations that were perpetuating my trauma. And so this is about rising out of that. This is about showing you that you can have a different life. You can have a peaceful life. I am now dealing with a lot more just peace and a lot less intrusive thoughts and just a lot more peaceful and happy of an existence than I ever have in my lifetime. And I genuinely just want to share that with people. And it will never be behind a paywall. Okay. I may at some point offer one-on-ones, but every bit of information that I know, you will have. You will have. I'm not gatekeeping anything. You will have every bit of information. I will just later down the line, I'm not ready to do that yet, but later down the line I may offer one-on-ones, because then I have a gift of being able to hear what lies underneath in the psyche and in the subconscious when I hear people talk. And so I can hear the problematic mindsets, I can identify them for you, I can tell you the steps to go to get through them. But I'm not going to be doing this soon, and you don't need to do that in order to take advantage of this channel. You will have everything I have, and I will take questions from the comments and make videos on them for people who are struggling with specific things. And so once we get through the process and the whole structure of healing, I'm going to start diving in. We're going to get all the way in. I know how to walk you all the way there, from the starting line to the finish line. I know how to get you there. And I want to share everything that I know, and that will always be free on this channel, because I think everyone deserves access to the resources they need to help themselves. So things that you can look forward to learning on my channel are how to feel your feelings. Very abstract concept. I got so frustrated hearing that, especially with someone with a lot of air in my chart. Okay, a lot of air. What it means to process your feelings, how you can actually stay disciplined, because there's a lot of toxic rhetoric around discipline and a lot of stuff around consistency, and there's very simple answers, and it's in the mindsets. It's not forcing yourself forward step by step. There is a degree that you have to be willing. You always have to be willing to show up, and showing up every day is not going to be easy. But when you understand what's actually holding you back, you'll be able to take the steps. Okay, so we're going to learn a lot about abstract concepts that you hear a lot of, mantras thrown around that no one really goes into depth about what it means. It just sounds good, right? And you hear it everywhere. No, we're not doing that here. We're going to break it down. We're going to understand it in its depth, in its entirety. And as someone who really struggled with figuring out what my purpose was and what I even wanted in life, I can walk you through what's standing in your way and knowing what you want. So everyone's purpose is going to be different, but it's going to show itself to you. It's going to show itself to you in every day, but you're going to tell yourself 50 million reasons why you can't do it. And it's going to feel like you don't want it, because that's that subconscious programming getting in the way, meddling with things. So we're going to walk through that as well. And as a girly with her Chiron and South Node in the 7th house in Cancer, we're going to talk through codependency, what it looks like, how it damages your relationships, how you can recognize it. We're going to go through everything that I know and I'm continuing to learn. In fact, being in front of you right now is facing fears that I have and healing me just to be here, sitting here talking to you. And I'm so grateful just for that opportunity to heal. And I'm excited to share what I've learned. I waited until I felt like I had enough and I had seen enough progress, but I had healed as much as I could possibly heal without taking these next steps forward. We reach a point where we have to put ourselves outside of our comfort zone. And I'm finally ready. My body is ready to make this step, and I am so excited to be here. So I hope you'll join me next week, where we talk about the actual structure of healing, the steps that you follow, and I hope that you just continue to be here. I'm excited to have you guys. I am excited to build a community and break things down in easy to understand ways. I've got Virgo in my 9th house for any of my astrology fans out there. And at some point we may also add on other videos throughout the week. I'm considering doing tarot. It will be Saturnian tarot. Okay, this is not, we're not feeding delusions here. We are working through shadows. We are facing things. And so that's the kind of tarot that I do. And as I continue to learn and expand on my knowledge in astrology, we may put some of that stuff in there as well. So, but I use these as tools. Okay, I use astrology and tarot as tools to help me in directing my healing. And even if you don't believe in them, that's okay. They highlight areas that you might not think about otherwise. So if you pull a certain tarot card, you're now looking at that part of your life when you might not have been before. And again, that brings things to the consciousness. So you don't have to necessarily believe in them. They still allow you to put a focus on something you might not otherwise have thought about. So that's going to wrap up this week's video. Again, I'm so excited to be here. I'm excited to have you guys. I hope you will join me and we will deep dive it all. And if you've got specific questions, leave them down below. You can even start today, because I will be keeping a list and we will just get going with all these videos, and I will help you with as much as I possibly can. And I have a deep, wide knowledge on a lot of these things. I have had to heal something that people say isn't healable. So I have a lot of trauma myself, and I'm able to identify it, and I've worked through a lot of it myself. So I look forward to working with you guys, and I'll talk to you later.